We have a very, 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 very special guest today. Oh my gosh, everyone's waiting to hear who it is. Are you guys ready? Introducing, little drum roll, Mama Gronk. Welcome, Mom. Great to see you up here today. Hey, she even came with her special cookies for the crew, and I think they're already all gone.
Little surprise for you guys.
So let's get into it. Who's the favorite son?
That was a question you weren't supposed to ask. The favorite son, I kind of always have to go with whoever I'm with at the moment. So if I'm with all of them, I guess they all are. But yeah, you can't answer that question as a parent. Just cannot answer that question.
Perfectly answered.
They are all equal.
It was an icebreaker.
All equal.
We were kind of talking to him a little bit about his experience growing up. I just want to understand it from the mom's perspective of having all these kids somewhat around the same age, and their energy being as high as that. Like their energy is pretty much what makes them all stand out. How do you have that all under one roof without just utter chaos, or was it just chaos?
Well, I was gonna say, there was chaos. No drugs, no alcohol, no pills. I mean, I didn't do any. No, for me.
Oh.
I'm not speaking for you guys. Yeah, I'm not speaking for you guys. I'm speaking for myself. It was just, you get up in the morning, you get going, and what are you gonna, you're not sending your kids back or sending them away. So you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it one day after another day. Energy, sure, tons of energy, and that was just the way it is. But I wasn't really worried about so much. One builder one time when we were building a house said, got this whole wall in the kitchen, this whole big wall. Like, let's put some glass shelves up here. And I said, are you kidding me? The first football will be totally aimed at that. And he looks at me and he says, well, just tell him not to throw the football in the house. And I looked at him and I said, why didn't I think of that? I'm like, it doesn't matter what it is. Football, anything gets thrown. Doesn't matter what it is, it gets thrown.
So what'd you have to do to kind of control us from making sure we didn't do anything too dangerous?
Well, you kind of don't have those things around, try to make it, like, I'm not going to put white carpeting in my family room and then expect you guys not to eat out there or drink out there or play out there. It's like you have to kind of set things up, making things easier for yourself. No coffee table, no end tables, because you guys are just going to smack your heads on them. So, the couch, the TV, basically the basics. Just try to make it easier on yourself. Why make it hard?
We heard a little bit about this green spoon.
Oh,
can you tell us a little bit about this green spoon and what this was about?
Well, the green spoon was my only defense. I would try to spank them. I don't even know if you're allowed to spank anymore, but I would try to spank them, and they just laughed at me.
But we deserved it.
They just laughed at me, though. Like, if I chased them with the green spoon, I was like, I'm going to get you.
Well, it was because one of the other brothers were laughing that we were getting chased by you, so it made it funnier.
Well, exactly. You all just laughed
until we got caught.
Yeah, like you got caught and you still laughed at me. Like that was going to hurt you. Plastic green spoon, it wasn't going to hurt anyway. It was just the idea of, being able to have some power over, I'm going to get you.
Do you still have the green spoon, by the way?
I have the green spoon.
You do? Wow.
If you looked at my video today, the little corner of the green spoon was sitting there because I wanted to start doing something where every time there's going to be that little green spoon is going to be in every video.
I love that idea. Today, that is great.
When you and I were practicing doing that one yesterday,
well, I probably couldn't see the spoon
crust,
because I'm the one who posted the video, so I probably cut half of the video out.
Maybe, but the green spoon was kind of sticking over in the corner by my book, so I thought, I'm going to keep this green spoon and always have it in every video.
That spoon has gone through a lot. Like, do you think...
it was missing for years.
Yeah, where'd you find it?
And I found it in a box in the basement. So one of you took it down there and hid it. And it wasn't you, right?
No, definitely wasn't. I moved out of the house after high school.
Oh, it was, whoever it was.
Back then, it wasn't as chaotic to, I guess, raise a child as it is now, because you didn't have social media back then, but you still had a lot of things that I'd imagine you're worried about as a mom. How did you raise them to be, like, what values did you instill in them that allowed them to be the people that they became? Like, what was the foundation that you built the house on?
Just from what I knew and what I grew up with, having them work hard. You know, they were in one sense easy as far as schooling. You know, we had a schedule. You came home, you did your homework, and then, you know, you ran around and played. And if you had a project on Monday, but you had hockey all weekend, then let's do the project on Friday night and be done with it and not have to worry about it, because I don't want to do it at 2 a.m. on Sunday night. You know, there was not a book. It's just like what your values are and what you learned, and being nice to each other. You know, everything. I mean, things just come back to me as saying, you know, do to others what you want others to do to you. But then also, I am a huge advocate of stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads. You go without, you know, I went without. There's no furniture in the living room. There's no furniture in the dining room. I had very limited clothes, 2-3 pair of shoes, but I wasn't materialistic anyway. But they always had their hockey paid for, and they always had all their equipment and their baseball, football, and all that, and all their stuff was always paid for. Those things didn't matter to me, and I think that kind of is something that they've grown up with too, that they're not real materialistic, especially Gordie, you know.
I wear the same clothes all the time.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Even Gilly's rubbing off on me, Mom. He wore the same shirt on the plane yesterday. Look at
Well, you would bring me a pair of shorts and say, can you sew these? I'm like, how about you know, you get a new pair of shorts. I've sewn these 5, 6, 7 times. Oh, no, I like these shorts. So, like, okay, fine. Whatever you can fit in your car is what you want to own. Like, don't buy me anything. I don't want anything. So, you know, they're not real materialistic as far as any out in the world. You know, we still use coupons and try to get things on sale.
You got to talk to everyone about your shopping bill and how we all had our own gallons of milk, how many refrigerators and freezer you had, and then we got to discuss how you got us to all our practices and games, and for how many sports the 5 of us played. We were chatting earlier, and he's like, Gordie, I have 1 or 2 kids. I don't know how you guys, how your mom did it.
You know what? I didn't have any help. I actually, would go pick up.
Well, all the
one
neighbors
from
helped
school.
us out.
Some of the parents, the mom and the dad were both working. So when I would go pick up somebody from school to drive them over to practice, I had other people who would say, well, can you pick up my son too? Because they have no way to get to practice. So not only was I picking up these guys, I was picking up other people's kids too. We had this full-size conversion van, and dinner was in, I bring dinner in the van, pick them up from one sport, drop them at another. It was a matter of scheduling. Anything you could do the day before, you did the day before. You packed the whole car. All equipment was in there for the day. All the school bags were ready. All the lunches were ready. They took 2 lunches to school, 1 for lunch, 1 for after school. It was just totally being organized.
This sounds like a logistics coordinator.
It totally. You have to. Yes.
That's a big role.
Yes.
That's a big role.
Well, if you listed all the things that moms do or stay-at-home moms do, they're nurses, they're teachers, they're cooks, they're cleaners, they just the whole list of all of the things that moms have to do.
Part of our last conversation was really kind of digging into, like, you raised really good, incredible boys. Very humble, very low key. What are some other words that I'm missing?
Handsome.
Intelligent.
Yeah. Intelligent.
Diced.
Handsome.
Shredded.
Yeah. Good human beings. It's hard to do that. I mean, in nailing 5 for 5 is pretty impressive. So you need a big pat on your back.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
You put your energy and your efforts and kind of took a back seat for yourself to put everything into your boys.
Well, Mom, you got to talk about the van that got stolen and how we found the people who went to jail.
We never found who stole it.
Yeah, we did. They were wearing our clothes on TV.
Oh no, that was Uncle Jerry's van. His
thought that
van,
one was ours.
No, his van got
Truth
stolen.
comes out now.
Yeah. No, they broke into his van and stole everything out of his van, and then
We'll
when
just
he was
say
on
it's our
vacation,
van.
yeah, and then when they got arrested for something else, like drugs or something, they were wearing his shirt.
I'm from upstate New York. We talk about from Rochester, so we talk about there's just like another layer of just like grit that comes from being in upstate New York. What do you think about that?
What he's saying, Mom, is when you're from up there's not much sunshine, so
I know.
that grit and grind, and that attitude is different.
Yeah, just getting through, hoping to get through the summer, right, and hopefully you have a nice summer.
And those sunny days were like a gift.
That's why you appreciate them so much more now while you're down here.
I did love baseball, but it had to be a nice sunny day. But there were many days that I went to their high school baseball games, and you're sitting there, and it's in the 40s, and you've got this pile of snow like right next to your chair. Like you sit your chair down and like between snow banks to watch a baseball game because the snow didn't melt for months. So it was tough playing baseball up there, but it was, when you got a nice day, a sunny day, it was really great.
It's tough up there because you got to do things a little bit different. You miss the bus. You're walking to school in negative 20-degree weather, and it is what it is. And there wasn't like, at least for my parents, it wasn't like, oh, well, we'll get you to school. They're like, no, walk a mile, you'll be fine. We walked a mile. It is what it is.
That was about the distance.
They walked.
Yeah, don't miss the bus, moral of the story.
Don't miss the bus, and there's consequences.
Oh yeah, because nowadays you get dropped off in the morning from your parents and you get picked up from your parents. I mean, kids, I don't know about if it's still like that up north, but around here it's crazy.
No, you got to drive your kids to school.
Nobody takes the bus.
No one takes the bus.
Everybody gets dropped off. And you're like, that's another like 2 hours out of your day. Because now you go sit in line. You got to get there an hour and a half early so you can get the front of the line. So now you're sitting there. I don't know. Maybe you're paying bills and
it's different times. I mean, I'm super grateful. You had to be very creative on what you had to. We didn't have our phones. You weren't scrolling.
Well, Mom, when did I get a phone? Like 8th grade? No, 12th grade.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I made Glenn wait, and he's like, everybody has a phone. I'm like, well, your brothers didn't get a phone till they were in seniors, so you have to wait.
Should we go to the secret sauce? We got to talk about Mama Gronk's cooking. These boys all wanted to hear about it. Growing up, you made all these bomb meals for us. I mean, how'd you learn to cook like this? Like, everyone wants to know. Like, you cook all these meals. You brought stuff here today. It's already gone within 12 minutes. Everyone was wondering, how you came up and made all these meals and how they taste so great and kept us, from eating out all the time.
Well, it was partially how I grew up because we made everything from scratch, and I do enjoy cooking. I enjoy the whole process of deciding what to have and grocery shopping and cooking it all. It was something that was so prevalent that my whole life revolved around it for 25, 30 years of what are they going to eat, because they walk in the door and they want to eat immediately. So how can I prepare that? How can things be done so that as soon as they walk in, it's not like, well, it'll be done in 3 hours. It's, and you didn't have time because we're on to the next sporting event, and a lot of times I had to bring it in the van with me so they could eat it on the way. It's, like you said, logistics. Be prepared. Do everything ahead of time. Make it easier on yourself because it's terrible when they walk in and they want to eat and the pressure of, oh, great. And we didn't eat out. We ate in every meal. You have to be prepared. You have to do it ahead of time. You have to do it on Saturday for Thursday or Friday. So it all depends on what's coming up.
So you were planning basically like a week in advance, more or less.
Oh, for sure. And, I'd have baseball teams that say, oh, we just won the tournament. Can we come over to your house and go swimming and stuff after? And like, okay, because I didn't have to stop at the store to buy one thing. I opened the freezer. I had all the hot dogs in there, the hamburgers in there, the rolls in there, everything. Everything was ready, right? I mean, you got here. And
How many fridges and refrigerators did we have? Like, we used to go in the side room. We had some in there. We had some out in the garage. Then you bought a whole nother set.
Well, we had the two full-size refrigerators and 2 full-size freezers.
That's full size, so that's really
Plus,
commercial grade.
Yeah.
When you're in Buffalo, though, in the winter, the only good thing, I'm not supposed to be bashing Buffalo, but the only good thing was that when you made all your Christmas cookies in October and November and December, to get them ready, you got to have them ready ahead of time. You could just put them in airtight containers and put them in the garage because they used to stay frozen.
Put them right in the snow.
That's
you
right.
Just put them on top of the freezer in the garage, and they were going to be frozen in your garage. So that was kind of like one good thing about when you didn't have enough room in all the freezers that you had, you could still put them, in the garage.
Did all the boys eat the same things, or did you was there a someone that had like an allergy, or you like? Oh no, you kept it all one, and that's what it is. You eat what I cook you, and that's that. There's no questions.
Oh, there's no. I don't ask what you want. this is what I'm making, and if you don't want it, I don't care. Go make yourself something else. And there's no way they're gonna go make something else, so they ate it. But you don't make weird things like sushi for a 5-year-old and things like that. It was the basics, and so they're things that everybody likes anyway. I'm not gonna argue with them and say you have to eat liver and you're not getting out of your chair till you eat it. Like, I don't want to eat it, so
Either
why
do
would
I wouldn't want to eat liver either.
Oh.
Gosh, Mom, that's
No.
So what was a favorite? What was like your go-to?
Yeah, what was your go-to cookie? You make all these cookies. Like, there's one that you just started eating while you were making it, like that you just absolutely loved.
I don't know, just stuff that I grew up with myself.
What was your favorite go-to holiday cookie?
Oh, I like those little white round, call them Russian tea cakes. I don't know. They're all different kinds of snowball, like different names for them, but the little round ones with confectioner's sugar on them. Yeah, I like those.
Did you have like a go-to meal that you're like, was it like a spaghetti? Was it like a meatloaf?
Being up in Buffalo, things were heavier and heartier. We didn't do a lot of grilling salmon. It was lasagna, it was chicken souffle, it was spaghetti, meatballs, the carbs and the things that filled them up. So a lot of casserole things, especially because, you could just take a piece of it, put it on a plate, wrap it in foil, and then take it in the van with you when you're going to pick them up, and just bring a fork. So a lot of things were casseroles because everything would be together, and it made it so much easier.
I'm hearing a lot of operations. There was a lot of planning. There was a lot of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Your casserole game probably is extremely strong.
Well, we had one last night. Did you guys like that one?
That chicken pot pie casserole she made last night. We should have just brought some here. You actually asked me to, and then I regretted that I didn't bring some because I didn't eat till you just pulled up. What's our go-to casserole though?
Well, the chicken souffle.
Yeah.
It's everybody loves
homemade, Mama Gronk style.
And
no one
people-
makes this. Like, it's insane.
know.
The recipe is nuts. When you have it, you just want to eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Which I already did that while I've been here.
What's like a
On the
go-to in the
top.
cabinet? Like
Okay.
Top
meals?
5 meals for the boys. We'll do 5.
Oh, well, chicken, lots of chicken. Pastas,
We needed our protein.
Pastas, meatballs, lasagna. They, like I said, those are all things that you can do ahead of time. Even you do it ahead of time and it's in the refrigerator and it's cold, you take a slice off, you warm it up, and then you're on your way. So whatever made it easier. You can't really do a steak on the grill or a pork chop because how, that sits around. How are you going to rewarm it? You're not going to reheat it in the microwave. It's just not the same. So casserole things that spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna, chicken souffle, chicken pot pie, homemade, recipes.
Did the boys have like for their birthdays? Did they have like their favorite meals? Like, tell us about like the birthdays or the holidays.
But
Or it was still you eat what I serve you. Happy birthday.
Some of us
Here's a
had
cake.
some favorite
They didn't care.
cakes, but we'll eat any. We'll eat
Yeah.
any birthday cake that Mom
they don't care.
makes for us.
Yeah,
They're all
some
amazing
of
at that
them.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like the Jell-O cake. That's like the big thing now. Well, like for Rob's last birthday, he was like goo about this Jell-O cake I made, and it's so easy. But
What was it?
you make a cake, and then you punch holes in it, and you pour Jell-O in it, and you put it in the refrigerator, and let it, the Jell-O gel, and then you put whipped cream on top of it. It's so easy, but if you know what you're doing and you have
You know what
stuff
mine
ahead of
is,
time.
though.
Your favorite.
My go-to dessert,
Oh, the rum cake. And guess what's?
Ooh.
Oh wait, guess what's sitting on the counter right now when you get home?
Dude, this rum cake, it melts in your mouth.
What's sitting on the counter right now at our house? You get home?
Cheesecake.
No.
Oh,
Well, you like cheesecake too, but
I got it wrong.
No.
Rum cake.
rum. I made it a couple days ago. Well, when you said you were coming, then I was like, okay, I better make a rum cake. So I made it ahead of time. So I thought, when you get home right now, it's sitting on the counter waiting for you.
Unbelievable.
And then he'll eat it. Then he'll
Well,
come back.
they're all gonna want to come
get a
over. You better
knife.
stop talking about it. We're gonna have a dinner for 8 of us plus the fans
Well, there's enough.
who are listening to this.
Yeah, there's enough right now. When you walk in the door, I'd be able to feed all of you.
When did the conversation start to shift where you had consistent people coming up to you being like, your son here, he's doing really well. He might be a professional athlete doing this. When did that start to happen? When did you all of a sudden go, am I about to go 5 for 5 on professional athletes?
I know. There's not like a day that it happens. But see, I look at it like people come up to me because of knowing that all 5 of my boys played pro. As soon as they have a grandchild, and the grandchild's like, 8 months old, oh, my grandson's going to be a linebacker. And I'm like so tired of hearing it because it's like he's 8 months old. And even when they're 10 and they're 12, it's like come to me when they're 18, and then I'll, and then let me know what your grandson's doing, because probably good chance he's not even in sports at that point. So there's so many years in there. It's like, people get in arguments, parents fight, you lose friends because, this one is better than that one, and my son should be playing and yours shouldn't be playing. And I didn't get involved in any of that. It's like, let him go. And I think I just didn't even have time, because it's like,
Because you were running logistics.
I was. Right. I was like, really?
That's awesome.
Like, I didn't stand around talking, because I was like, all right, come on, let's go. We got to go get your brother. So I didn't have time for that. And I'm still like that. I'm just not a gossiper. I don't want to hear it.
Were you always this zen and relaxed?
No drugs, no alcohol, no pills.
Wow.
Well, I think I just
Yeah, she was high on life with the 5 of us.
I think I just learned to be, because you realize that you can't get caught up in that stuff, and you can't worry about every little thing. Okay.
She was brain dead after Chris.
If they break something, it's like, okay.
It's not worth putting the energy into that.
No, I didn't have anything.
Can't do
worth
anything
anyway, so I don't care if you break it.
Yeah, you
Right?
heard what she put in the house.
I don't care.
Yeah.
No coffee tables, no end tables. Right.
How did you create an environment where they kind of stayed busy? Was that tactical, or was that just through happenstance, just because they were involved? How did you?
They were, well, they always had each other, so they didn't need to be looking for something to do. Staying busy, I wish we weren't as busy. Like, there was no time to even think about, well, what are we going to do now? There's always something to do. There was just, yeah.
Was there ever
Really
vacation? Was there like ever a holiday vacation?
No, not really. Vacations ended up being, once they got, a little bit older, you had tournaments on holidays, Like, even you'd have a hockey tournament the day after Christmas, so you had to leave on Christmas Day to go drive to this tournament, like maybe in Toronto or something. Or baseball ended up being at Easter break. Once you got into high school, then they had tournaments down in Florida at Easter break. So that ended up being your vacation. Vacation was wherever the sports took them. They'd always had tournaments on holidays.
So you never had a break?
Never had vacation. No, not really. Once in a while, when they were little, before we got into all this, we would go to Myrtle Beach at Easter, because that's what my family did growing up. But then it got to the point where we couldn't do that anymore.
It's just too much.
Yeah, because then they were doing baseball tournaments.
5 of us in the
Poor mom, man.
in the van.
Poor mom.
Yeah.
Kudos to her. So what was the inspiration around Outnumbered?
As far as writing the book, you mean,
Yeah.
or the name?
Both.
Both.
Okay, both.
I think the
So,
name explains itself.
totally outnumbered. So I had the 5 boys, and then had a dog, and of course the dog was a male. And I said, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. So then we studded out the dog one time, before we got the female dog. We studded out him, and the female that he was with had 4 male dogs.
And then you got a goldfish.
Then we got a goldfish. Figured that was probably male. And then we got the female dog. I said, I have had enough for getting the female dog. So we ended up getting the female dog too, with the male dogs. And then they had a couple litters together. And then it took, of course, a grandson, a grandson, a grandson, a grandson, and then a granddaughter.
Mm.
And then another grandson and another grandson. But yeah, there's some granddaughters thrown in there now, so that's good.
One or 2 granddaughters?
There's 3
now.
3.
Yeah.
3 granddaughters and 6 grandsons so far.
To write a book, it takes a lot. Like, at what point of your life gave you the idea to write Outnumbered?
Well, it was probably 7 years ago. People were always saying, oh, you should write a book, and then, put some recipes in it, because, everybody always wants to know what you fed those guys. I've found a ghostwriter. It's a friend of a friend, and then we started working. Took us 6 years. So then about a year and a half ago, we finally, put the book out. And Outnumbered, yeah, I think it's kind of self-explanatory as far as the name of it, because everywhere I went, it was men. Oh, look around the room.
We could have invited some of your.
We wanted to make you
girlfriends,
comfortable.
huh? Yeah, we wanted
to
to
make you comfortable.
I think I really am. Like, I think it really is better. I don't want to have to compare like what shoes I'm wearing or nail polish or any of that stuff.
What's in the book that some people should expect?
Just some stories of, hey, we're a family that we did the same thing. You ran around like crazy, dropping this one off at this practice and that one at that practice. I think it's just, the difference was I was multiplied by 5. So, Yeah, I mean, years ago, people had 10, 12, 15 kids, but they didn't go to hockey and baseball and football and basketball and skiing and snow skiing and water skiing and, all over the place. So, in tennis and everything you can think of. So they were home. Having five and having them in so many sports was a little bit different at this point in this generation to get them all to all the things that they had.
You gotta love
But-
the front of her book. It's
Yeah,
the refrigerator and freezer popping
Yeah.
out, food spilling out of it, and we're all trying to get to the fridge to eat.
Yep.
Oh, you can't lock up all your snacks like that.
No, nothing was ever locked.
Yeah.
It
How-
was
how-
a free-for-all.
How often did we do family dinners?
Not very often. I think it still has been 23 years since we've had Christmas or Thanksgiving. I have had Christmas or Thanksgiving with all five of my boys. It's been 23 years. You left for college. It's been that long. For Christmas or Thanksgiving. We've been together, maybe all of us, for Super Bowls, but we've been in all different sections. We've been like a couple weddings when Dan and Chris got married, but we're all, at different tables. So to just say us sitting down to eat dinner, yeah, it's been 23 years. It's 2001.
Do you ever think about an alternate universe where they all don't become professional athletes and what that life would have looked like?
No, I don't look at I don't look at that. No, I mean my life is so different because once the last one retired, which was Rob, my life is so different because it was always traveling, and I would travel. Well, I think I figured I was like 26 weekends a year, so half the year, to all of their events. My life is so different now.
Yeah, I'm interested in what was it like once I guess when you became an empty nester. Was that a big transition? You were still traveling and going to all the different events and stuff like that, so you're still kind of on a schedule, but how does it go when you're so operationally focused and you're having that stimulus for, you said 25, 30 years almost? What happens when all that kind of goes away?
Well, when Glenn left for college, I moved to Florida, so then that changed my whole life, and you're kind of starting all over with, where you're living and your job and getting new friends and stuff. So I kept busy, kind of with that. I think that helped a lot. I'm still always busy. Don't sit around wondering what I'm going to do today. There's always something to do. Yeah. Of course, I see them. And then when I got down to Florida, then Rob started doing, with the Buccaneers. So that helped because it was only a 2-hour drive. And then I started seeing all of them a lot more in the last couple of years.
All your boys playing professional sports, and you made the transition down to good old Florida, the place to retire, filled with sunshine.
For sure.
We assume here you're on the beach, just enjoying your retirement. What does retirement look like?
You know what they say about when you assume.
It makes an ass between you and me.
Make an ass out of you and me. So no, moved down to Florida, started a full-time job. My husband Mike and I do home watch. We do it 7 days a week, probably 15 hours a day, probably 8 months a year, and then we have 4 months when everyone returns to Florida that we're not so busy. So January, February, March are quiet times. So no, there is not any retirement. I don't know what I would do. I mean, you have to be doing something. I can't just sit around all day. That is something I definitely am not used to doing. There are all those years of constant, sleeping in your clothes. So when you get up in the morning, you can get to something faster. It's like, you never knew what was going to be thrown at you, like overnight or the next day. So, no, we love it, and that's what we do, and I'm not sitting on the beach.
What I hear, I hear passion behind it. So you're enjoying moving, keeping busy, creating. I'm hearing still some logistical.
A lot of the things I can apply now to our business are things that I learned as, the boys were growing up and trying to fix things around the house and do things. And of course, you learn as you go along. When we were kids, my dad did a lot of remodeling too of our houses. So I remember things that he was doing, and he taught us things. So the boys, not so much. They don't really know too much. I didn't pass that part on to them. But Gwen's pretty good though. Gwen's learning a lot of, handyman things around the house. A lot of that, yes, has transitioned into what we're doing now. And, Mike being an engineer, he's really into all that stuff and is really good at fixing things. All those years with them has helped for what I'm doing now.
So what do you do to relax?
I don't.
That's awesome.
Her relaxing's taking
Is there?
care of the boys.
Are you taking some time for yourself? Do you go on a vacation a few times a year? Like, there's got to be some sort of relaxation.
Right, we go out with a lot of people this time of year because they're here, and where our business is slower now. So that gives us a chance to do things and go out. Vacation is pretty much only in January, February, if we were going to go anywhere. So we went to Texas last week to see Chris and Brittany and the 4 little kids. You know, people will come here now this time of year to visit, and which works out because we're quieter. But relax. I don't know. Maybe I should look that up in the dictionary.
Relax. Yeah, it is. There's one word in the dictionary for like Florida.
No, I don't really. I can't say that I relax. Every day there's something to do.
Her relaxing's still cooking.
You know it is.
Is that your therapy?
You know what I have to say? That is true.
Your therapy
That
also.
is true. As soon as somebody says they're coming, I'm like, okay, what are we gonna have for dinner? And I always have to say to them, well, how long are you staying? And then I don't want to really ask them that because it's like, I'm not asking you because I want you to leave. Like, well, how long are you staying? It's because I know when you walk in the door, you're going to walk over to the refrigerator and open it. That's exactly what you're going to do. And you're going to want to eat the minute you walk in the door, no matter when it is. I want to be prepared. And it's like, okay, how long are you staying? So I know, because if you're staying 5 nights, that means I have to have well, if it's Gordie staying 5 nights, I have to have 15 dinners because he'll eat 1 for breakfast, 1 for dinner, 1 for lunch. So,
But how do you blame me? I mean, it's her.
Yeah.
It's her
When you have cooking like that, you can't blame me.
It is. If cooking does relax me, and I think I just enjoy it so much, so that's something. But it also is something that, it's necessary and it's work, but it's relaxing work.
I showed up.
Yeah.
Well, remember last time when I texted you from the plane and told you I was coming down without
Yes.
telling you? You still had 4 fridges full of meals.
I know.
So
this
she's still
is-
cooking as we all live there.
So this is Gordie flying. Mom, my flight was canceled, but I'm at the airport, so I'm just going to fly to Florida instead, and I'm getting on the flight now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Okay, does anybody ever have this happen to them? An hour before he's landing, 32,000 feet in the air, I get a text. Bring food to the airport. I'm starving.
Come on, man.
I live 4 miles from the airport.
7 minutes.
Yeah, and he wants me to bring food to the airport. But it's like he's at 32,000 feet texting me, bring food to the airport. I'm starving.
She's going to be more than 7 minutes late to make all that food and get it there.
Wow. Well, did you
Have
get
you
it?
ever heard that before?
No, my mom definitely wouldn't. She
But
probably
what
wouldn't
was
answer my phone
what
call.
was the meal that got it done?
No. I had all the food ready at the house, even though I just found out he was coming. I was like, pull everything out of the freezer. But it was all ready. But I brought him a banana and a bottle of water, and I said, it's 4 miles. Come on. When you walk in the door, you can eat.
I'm a big boy.
It's all
This is a big boy.
ready, but
You
come
think
on.
I was looking at
Oh
that
my
plain
God.
food the whole time. I just needed some of that homemade cooking ASAP.
Yeah.
I just think it would have tasted
It's
better
like
in the car.
8 minutes you could have. For old time's sake of eating in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old time steaks for eating in the car.
In the
I
car
couldn't
on the
wait.
way to the next event.
Exactly. And it was like I was going to another event.
You're right.
And I was in the airport for.
I contemplated it, and then I said, I'm not going to bring it to the airport. So that's how I ended up in this area. I came down one year. Well, every year I was driving my mom and dad back and forth. They're in Sarasota, so I would fly down and then drive them back to Buffalo. And then in the fall, I would drive them back down and then fly back. And then one year my brother said, well, why don't you visit me before you get mom and dad? And he lives in this part, in Miramar Lakes also. And so I came down and visited him for a day, and he's like, well, why don't you look at a place? I'm like, well, it was in 2009. It worked out because when we sold it last year, we did pretty good.
Wow. Good. Yeah, you did really good.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad.
Bought it, and it was really low, and so we did pretty good. And then, like I said, it was just May, and it was still snowing in Buffalo. I said, I cannot do this anymore. And like, if you have a place down there and it's sunny and it's warm, why are we doing this? There's no kids home anymore. So that's kind of how we ended up here. And my mom and dad still, They just had their 70th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And
Congrats.
they're 90 and 92, and they live in Sarasota.
It's great. Do you,
So
you
they're
still see them a lot?
Yeah, not as much as I want to, of course, but they're doing good. Yeah.
Did you
Good.
did you learn some of your cooking skills from your mom?
Oh, yes. Yes. If you read my book, it's a lot has to do with my mom and the things, that we did. And that was the basis to everything. Yeah, you cooked at home.
How did you manage so many kids having so many ebbs and flows through their different sports seasons and different ups and downs? Like, how did you manage that? How did you keep them, like, mentally?
4 words. Good luck.
We didn't have a
fun.
phone.
Well, when you're professional,
Oh,
that's what I was
yeah.
doing, like, later. But back when they were kids, if you don't want to play, don't play. But you have to finish what you started. If you don't like hockey, don't play. I mean, Liz, you're on me. That's oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's
You're talking 4:50 a.m. on the ice, and then it's the first one. Then the next one is like 9:30, and then there's a 10:45, then there's a 2:00, and then there's a 5:30.
and this is before school.
And this is like on Saturday or Saturday and Sunday, and I've gone to 5 different rinks. And then you get up Sunday morning, you do it again, and Sunday by 5 I'd be exhausted.
No.
And we go to practice, hockey practice at 4:50 on the ice. You get off at 6, go home and deliver newspapers.
Yeah, and during the school year when we were playing tournament hockey,
Yeah.
so we would do 4:30 before school, then we did intramurals, then we did school, and then we had basketball practice.
Yeah,
That's just one of
sometimes
us.
Yeah, and I pick somebody up from football and have the whole hockey bags, and they're disgusting. They just stench. They're their own smell. If you ever did hockey, any of you do hockey?
I had lacrosse and it was stinky.
Oh my gosh,
Similar.
it's
And you never really washed your
dang.
pads as boys.
Well, there's some stuff you can't wash.
Yeah. It's
Like
shoulder
what
pads.
do you do with the helmet? You can kind of
Yeah.
spray it and Lysol it out, but you're not really.
But you
putting
know
it
what
in
was
the
great?
water
That's stuck in
tank.
there.
It's
What
dumb.
my equipment was?
Oh.
Mom, who ended up with that equipment?
Everybody. One year, Glenn, he'd always get, he'd be the 5th one wearing some pads or whatever. I'm like, oh, they're so disgusting. But he knew he'd just go down in the basement and go, oh, I need, the next size pad. He'd just go downstairs and get it, whatever. And I said, well, Glenn, we'll buy you a new, we call it a wiener cup. You can have a new wiener cup and a new helmet. But other than that, Glenn didn't get anything new. I
Was-
didn't
Sorry,
make
Was that-
Glenn. I'm sorry.
I didn't make him
Love you,
share
though.
that.
So was
know?
Christmas a lot of wiener cups? New wiener
Yeah.
cups
Oh,
for the
yeah.
season?
Yeah. Wiener cups and helmets. Yeah, that was the new
Jock
thing.
straps,
Jock-
wiener cups,
Yeah.
helmets. There you
yeah,
go.
that was Yeah, Gordie got the stuff. Sometimes it wasn't even brand new. Some of it.
Yeah, but it was a lot
maybe,
better.
I
got it first.
Yeah, you did.
And then I was also hearing the fact that when you have so many kids at home, last thing you think you'd want is more people converging on the house. But I was hearing off air that you guys had more people that wanted to live around. Like,
Right.
it seemed like you guys were the magnet in terms of all the
go-to house.
Yeah, the go-to house.
Exactly. Well, if somebody showed up and was, one of Gordie's friends and showed up and Gordie wasn't home, then he had Dan or Chris, so hang on, right? So we'd be like, okay, and they'd still come in, and we had, a lot of kids, but there was 2 that actually came in and stayed for years.
Mm.
Lived at the house, stayed there. The parents moved away, and they stayed and had quite, but
So she really had like 9, 10 people she was
and
taking care
there
of.
was a lot of I think the kids they wanted to go home to a house where there was somebody there. And I didn't realize it at the time, but then as years went by, I thought, this one's coming over and there's nobody at his house, and this one's coming over and there's nobody at his house. And I used to think, well, why don't they go hang out at the house where there's no parents? You think like that's what kids like to do.
Yeah.
But then I realized, no, they wanted to come over. They came in, walked in the door, and there was food, and there was homemade cookies, and they pretty much, just be decent, and you can hang out and do whatever you want. You know, I didn't have a lot of rules. When the one kid came to stay, and you were leaving for college, and he still was there.
Yeah.
When
Took my
When
place.
Dustin was there, and I said to him, you know, 2 rules: don't bring drugs and alcohol in the house, and when you wash your socks, hook them together and throw them in the washer together. So it's like,
Just be respectful.
you know, yeah, right,
How'd those boys turn out?
really good. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, they did. Yeah.
Have you heard from
They
them
don't-
since? Did they come back and
Yeah,
say
yeah.
thank you for?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the one mom just called me recently. Actually, when my book came out, and she said she got my book and she was reading it, and she said, you know, you did so much for my son. He's who he is now because of you.
That's beautiful.
It's super cool.
Yeah, because he didn't have anybody at home. So, I can't even tell you the things that they have to compete with. But yeah, anybody who was going to eat the most, who was going to run the fastest, who could go up the stairs fastest, who could brush their teeth the fastest, who could take a shower the fastest, you name it, it was a competition. And like I said, I that was the basis of all of them, was each other, having each other. And if you can do it, I can do it, and I can do it better. And I know, you know, when Gordie went on to play baseball, Dan said, hey, he did what he wanted to do. You know, I want to play football. And he went on and, you know, based it on the fact that, you know, he had somebody to follow.
But we have to thank you for that, because without you and Dad helping me get to
Right.
Florida, like,
Right.
hey, you can't be here and go to a local college. We talked about this earlier, because your brothers are just going to stay home. They're going to follow you to a local college. They're going to get in trouble. So they really helped set, you know, me up to leave for success. And they're like, if you want to play baseball, you're not playing baseball up north.
No,
You know,
exactly.
like-
That was a big decision. Was, you know, it's hard when you're, especially, you know, the first one leaves and you're not used to it. And like, he left, and then every day I'd go in and look in his room. It's like, oh, he's not in his bed. You know, it's like, you know, thinking, you know, and then you think, of course, they're going to call you every day, which they don't. You know, just having that example. Right, but yeah, he wasn't going to play baseball up north, so it was like, if you want to play baseball, you have to go south.
Yeah,
Not a lot of
But
people
I
wanna
thank
play
you
in the
guys for
snow.
that, because if I didn't have you guys tell me to go look at schools or bring me down there, it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It would never have happened.
Right,
You know, so that was so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I left, and the success I had, like you said, and Dan
Right.
thought he could do it, and the next brother, and with the help of them, like, you guys need to go somewhere else to kind of get away and learn on your own. You know, which was huge. It was
well, I think, right, like you said, is all of you went away so far away. You know, Jacksonville, Florida, and Baltimore, Maryland, and Arizona, and Kansas. You didn't come home for the weekend. You didn't come home with your dirty laundry and then go out with your buddies and then, you know, eat all weekend and then leave with your clean clothes. It was, you want clean clothes, you figure it out. If you want wear them dirty, I don't care. You're 2,000 miles away. But I didn't have a lot of like, growing up, they didn't have, like, I didn't say, okay, make your bed and do, like, you don't want to make your bed. I didn't really care.
Yeah, but we
I mean,
had chores. You know, you
Yeah,
always made us
you
had
had
chores. And
chores.
the one thing you said earlier was, when we were playing sports, one of the biggest things, if we started something, you always made us finish, you know, what we started,
Mm-hmm.
which was really important. Like, when you think about it now, the life lessons you learned because of that. But the other thing is, if we didn't want to play, we made it easier for you.
It would have been.
But at the same
yeah.
time, it's like, you guys didn't, like, force us to have to play a sport.
No.
You know, and I actually took a year off at 10 years old, and I was having a bad experience. I didn't play at 11. I went back and played at 12, and I ended up going to Little League World Series. But it was never like, you know, but I had to finish at 10 when I wasn't having fun, or for whatever reason. When you're a kid, you get upset because you're not playing, whatever. But they weren't the ones that, like, if you don't want to play, that's fine. But also, if you're not going to play, you're going to get a paper route. You're going to have jobs. Like, that's what kept us structured too, versus just messing around and getting in trouble. And that was really important. You don't realize the life lessons you learned at such a young age because of the things you did, you know, without feeling so pressured, you know.
Well, I didn't.
But
really
it taught
know-
us well.
Yeah, I didn't know much about sports. As these guys went along, you know, you look back now and you say, there's so much good that sports do. You have something to do after school. You have a responsibility not only to yourself but to your team. You need to be there on time. You need to work hard. Those are all the things that, yes, they're all life lessons. I didn't realize that when they first started it and we first started this whole journey, because I didn't have that in my generation. I went to a private school as a youngster. We didn't even have a gym. We had like one room that was the cafeteria, the gym, and the auditorium all in one, with this really low ceiling. So there wasn't, a lot of sports in my generation and my family. We didn't go to sporting events and stuff. When they started all this, it's like, yeah, and the life lessons is also the same, like in school. One of them didn't like the teacher. And I said, okay, well, you have him just for like a couple months. It's part of the year. You don't like him as long as he's not touching you or doing something. You just didn't like him. Finish it up and you'll never have that teacher again. Just finish it up as long as he's not, touching you or doing anything, like that. Because when you get out in the world and you're working with somebody and you got this boss that's the biggest,
you know what?
It's like, you got to figure it out. Okay, I don't like this person, but I've learned a lot from this person. But I don't like the person. But you kind of figure it out and okay, fine, I have to deal with it until I can find something else, because you're not just going to quit a job. You have to work. If you want something, you have to work for it. So, you're not just going to quit. So,
did you think all 5 of us would play college sports?
No, not at all. I mean, how do you know that? You don't know when you start out. There wasn't like, okay, when my kids are older, I want them all to play college sports and I want them all to be professionals. It was never a thought of mine. It was, you do it if you want to do it. You don't have to do it, but you will be doing something. You're not just going to sit around. You guys didn't ever sit around just watching TV. You were always running around doing something. But you had sports every single day. Every day.
I'm hearing there's no such thing as sitting around with the family. Like, you got to be moving.
No, there's no sitting around.
Yeah.
There's something to do.
Even today.
Yeah, even today.
When Rob got drafted to the Patriots, just his personality in a place that had such a it was so notorious for being so straight edge. Did you guys ever have a discussion as a family I wonder how this is gonna go? I wonder how these personalities are gonna jive, especially with the level of just your whole family's personality, how out loud they live.
Well, I guess it's part of the whole experience of life, and like I just said about, okay, now you're thrown into a situation that might not be exactly what you think. Obviously it turned out well, but at first it's like you just have to figure it out, and you have to work with people and figure out their personalities and what they want before you really, make a move. It worked out well for them.
Yeah.
But
It sure did.
you
For
know,
3 of them.
Yeah, 3.
3 played for the Pats.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Dan played for a while and Glenn played for a while.
Glenn won a Super Bowl with
Yeah.
Rob
Which year?
versus the Falcons, the 28-3 comeback.
That's
16.
insane.
Yeah.
You guys were all there for that,
Yeah.
right?
And I would go in there and people were like, how can you go watch them? You got to be so nervous. What if they get hurt? And I said, them getting hurt is not even a thought. I didn't even think about that. I just went in and was like, good luck, have fun. Just go in. And yeah, there were the injuries. And then you just dealt with it at the time. But I don't lose sleep over that stuff, and I don't think about this stuff. Like, I don't go into a game, and Gordie getting hurt, it's not like, every time he's up to bat, I'm worried about him getting hurt. It isn't even a thought to me. It happens, and it did happen, but it's not something like, why worry about it? Worrying isn't going to do anything.
You have this
So-
sense of being present and being in the now and not really living in the past or living in the future, which creates fear. Take it day by day, take it moment by moment.
I would just be like, oh, not their head, not their back. I was just hoping it wasn't the head and the back, and sometimes it was, but get up. Just, can you get up? Like, if you stand up when I see you're hurt, then that helps me a lot. I did learn, like in football, nobody calls you and says, like the first time any of them got hurt was Dan, and I was watching it on TV, and Dan got hurt. Well, I didn't know it was him at first because, now I realize, and in all the games of, if you ever pay attention, when someone's hurt, that's when they go to commercial break. So first they show everybody standing around the person, but you can't see the person, you can't see their number, you can't see who it is because all the staff is all standing around them. Then they go to commercial. So now you as a mother are there going, was that my son? I'm not sure. I think it was. I thought it was Dan, but I wasn't positive. And this was like the first time this happened. And now there's no way to get a hold of him because he's in an away game and you're not there. And I remember that, so now they come back from commercial, which seems like 15 minutes. And they come back and then you find out it is Dan. I'm like, what do I do? Like, what's wrong with him? And then it's like, okay, he gets up, and then I'm like, okay, he's walking. And then, of course, nowadays, like, you realize, okay, are they walking off the field on their own? Are they walking off and going to the blue tent? Are they walking off and going down into the locker room? Or are they being taken off on a cart? So I look at those 4 points to say how bad they are, and it's like, okay, get up and go over to the bench, so you see them. And now when I watch games and somebody gets hurt, the first thing I do, I go, oh, their poor mother, because you are watching on TV and that's all you get. Nobody calls you to say, he's hurt, and nobody. So you just wait. And then if they're taken, the times that they were taking, they did go into the locker room on a stretcher. Those luckily were the games that I was at, so I could go down to the locker room. But then you wait outside the locker room and they're like, well, the doctor's looking at them, you can wait.
Yeah.
It's not like when they're a little kid, it's like when they're hurt, you're in there, and now, like, no, you're not allowed, you can come in when they're done looking at them. So it's totally different because it's still your baby. And when they were little and they got hurt, you went into the doctors with them and in the office with them. So it's until it happens, it kind of throws you off, like, oh, I didn't even think about how this whole thing works. But yeah, nobody calls you, nobody tells you. You just wait to hear from them.
What kind of injuries when they were boys in the house? Was there blood everywhere? Was there just Hail Marys thrown? Was there rules around that?
I have to say that considering there's the 5 of them and all the things they did, we did pretty darn good. Because people would say, oh, they must know you in the emergency room, by first name basis. I'm like, we really didn't do a lot.
Was that by design, or it was just they were good boys and they didn't really smack each other around too much?
No, they beat the crap out of each other. But it was kind of, to me, it was like, you guys fight, and then 5 minutes later, let's go outside and play basketball. And they'd run out the door and play basketball. There's no I'm not talking to you for, 3 weeks now because you hit me. It was you fight, you took this, don't do that, don't touch me, blah, blah, blah. And then they run out to play some other game. It really never lasted more than 5 minutes.
Top 3 injuries. Glenn, it's a mini stick injury.
Yep.
Me getting knocked out on the 8th green with a golf club.
Yeah.
Or Rob's injury where he tore his ACL, MCL concussion.
I mean, the concussions were the worst. I mean, you had the concussion, which was the first time I had to deal with that. But yeah, he was playing golf. He was golfing. He was on the golf team in high school.
I made the varsity golf team as a freshman. Don't know how, because my clubs were terrible.
Well, of course they were. He probably had the cheapest clubs out there.
I got a call for that.
Yeah, and then the coach comes out and it's like carrying you out to the car. I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, you got hit in the head with the golf club.
He probably still doesn't know how it happened. I was on the 8th green, and I was bending over to pick up my ball.
Yes.
And my teammate was picking the ball up backward. You know how you have the back of the putter, you can pick the ball up? And he was doing it fast, and it just happened to be the perfect timing. And it clipped my temple right on the exact spot. Remember my hat wouldn't fit? The size of the golf ball that was coming off of my temple was insane. And the concussion was so bad, I was laying on the 8th green unconscious.
I know. So I did
And then-
know that story, but then I.
And then
so
how sick was
then
I
I
after
took
that bad
you-
concussion? You're just
Oh, you're
puking.
You're throwing up. I take you to the doctor, throwing up all over. So yeah, then the funny thing is okay,
funny
you
now.
gotta wake him up. Yeah, it's funny. It's always funny after. Wake
'Cause I'm
him
okay, I
up
think.
every
Yeah, we're-
hour and make
yeah.
sure he's okay. I don't know if they still do that, but that's what I had to do. So his father was out of town. He was in high school, so he slept with me. Huh? Maybe you don't want to put that.
Oh, that's going in.
So I had the alarm clock sitting right there every hour. Alarm would go off. I'd wake him up. Are you okay? You know, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Set the alarm for the next hour. Well, after about the third time, he was waking me up. The alarm would go off. He'd hear it, and I didn't hear it because I was so tired. And then he's going, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? That was the extent of my mothering, I guess, for his concussion. But yeah, you were fine.
When all of your boys transition out of sports, when that was such a heavy piece of their identity, how did you, as a mom, like, talk to them through that? Like, what was the different conversations you would have when they would end up transitioning? Because now you've had 5 sons and they've all played professional sports and then eventually retired. So what was that like specifically?
Well, that's why you need to have a plan for after. You know, they had educations. They all had an education. Well, except Rob. Well, he had a kind of. He didn't graduate because he left college early for the draft. But, you know, they had educations. They kind of knew what they wanted to do after. So they had a plan. You know, a lot of people don't really know what they're going to do after. And then they kind of falter and they end up being insurance salesmen, which nothing wrong with insurance salesmen. They probably make a lot of money these days. But yeah, they all had plans. But they're, you know, all entrepreneurs. They go out there, salesmen, good. They're good with the public, good talking. So
We talked about how there's such a parallel with the work ethic in sports and the work ethic in whether your professional path, working for someone, or just being an entrepreneur. They both go hand in hand. You know, a lot of blood, sweat, tears.
oh yeah, and in sports there were a few times where, you know, they were pretty down and situations happened, and it's like you get through it, and like you said, life is like that too. There's days where you go, I just can't do this anymore, and then you get up and do it again.
That's right.
It's the truth.
You know, because you have to, and you just gotta work yourself through it, and have a good support and good friends.
Well, you've done an incredible job.
Yeah.
You raised
Yeah.
Tried.
five gentlemen, good boys, big personalities, successful.
They still like their big calendars. I know Chris, Glenn and Rob still use them. Chris I think does too. Where, you know, you had the big desk calendar and you wrote, you know, and I had to write on there where everybody was every day. So if I wasn't home, they knew where I was. I was at this practice or that game, whatever. But everything was on there, and they still love those. It's nice to just see what is coming up a week from today, at the end of the month, what's coming up, so that you can prepare. And I guess that goes along with, you know, the preparing and the scheduling and the logistics of being ready. And, you know, you can only be ready for so much because you're prepared, but somebody always throws something at you at the last second.
I think we nailed it.
I think we hit it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Anything else we need right now?
No, I think
Any other questions or anything you wanted to tap on, Mom, with your book?
You know, I'll think about it later.
A shout out to Mama Gronk. Book Outnumbered. Get it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. The Real Mama Gronk Instagram. Check out her recipes, her life stories, how to raise 5 boys. Exactly why she's outnumbered. Get that book,
Totally
baby.
outnumbered.
Get that book.
Totally outnumbered. Mama Gronk in the house tonight.
Always outnumbered.
Thank you.